When does a meme deck stop being a meme deck? This is Calibrated Blast. The aim of the deck is simple. Cast Calibrated Blast and deal 15 damage. And with lands to support the strategy by either dealing damage, disrupting mana base, and responding to threats, this deck can be competitive. Alright, on our first case study, we are on the play looking at this hand. It is a keepable hand, definitely. However, we do have Emrakul and Shadow of Mortality in hand. So that means that the propensity for us to draw 15 damage out of Calibrated Blast is now lessened. However, let's just play it out. Wooded Foothills, pass. We're going to put in a Sunken Citadel as we draw a card. We're going to name red and we're going to pass the turn. Which is very good because that means that on turn 4 we can blast with no worries. So our opponent fetched a Ketrea Triome, Bloodstained Mire, fetch, Mountain into red and 6. So to me, this screams Indomitable creativity. They're down to 18 right here. I think we can go for 15 damage right off the bat. Hopefully, that's the case. If it's just 4 damage, we're going to go for the red and 6. Ooh, 15 damage for sure. We revealed 6 cards and revealed a Shadow of Mortality. 15 damage down to 3. Now, if our opponent does a fetch land right here, they are effectively down to 2. And then our Ramunap Ruins will definitely be the winner. Land drop, pass the turn. Let's not show them the Graven Cairns and Cascade Bluffs. When it fetches, while that is on the stack, we can activate Ramunap Ruin and win the game. Let's go to game number 2. This is actually game number 3. An opponent did confirm that they are Indomitable creativity in game number 2, and we lost because there are a lot of counter spells on the deck. Therefore, we're gonna board in a couple of Boseiju, who shelters all, and let's see. This hand could be a keep, but I think we can do better. Again, the hand where we do have Emrakul and Shadow of Mortality is a bit dubious because that lessens the propensity for us to hit 15 damage. There you go. This hand that I think theoretically we can keep, we do have a Boseiju shelters all, Sokenzan, so that we can do a couple of damages, but I think we can do better. All right, I think this hand we can keep. There's Calibrated Blast, 1 Sunken Citadel, 2 Cascade Bluffs, so that means that we can actually do damage to them in a couple of turns, like turn 3 Calibrated Blast, turn 4 Calibrated Blast. So we're gonna keep bottom Boseiju and the island, Sunken Citadel on blue, Team Vents untap, strike it rich. Opponent might be on a heavier or faster side. We're going to Demolition Field their Steam Vents. Let's search for a Mountain on our side as well. Gonna pass the turn. Bloodstained Mire, pass the turn. They're fetching. Steam Vents untapped. That's still 15. And during our upkeep, they're gonna go and ice our Citadel, which is quite okay. Put in Cascade Bluffs into play. Pass the turn. Opponent put in a Bloodstained Mire. During our turn, land drop Field of Ruin. We're going to Field of Ruin at end of turn. Let's see what they do. They fetched. That's a lounge, and then now we're gonna Field of Ruin, the lounge, during their upkeep. That means if they have Tishana's Binding, which probably they don't because they're a Indomitable creativity deck, they're gonna put in a Triome. They don't have an extra land, which is quite nice for us. That gives us an avenue. End of turn, we're gonna Calibrate Blast. Let's see if they have Counterspell. They do have a Fluster Storm. Not ideal for us. We can flush back here, but we drew a Boseiju shelters all, which is quite nice. So at this point, we decided to not go with a Sokenzan because what they can do next turn is theoretically go for a Indomitable creativity play. And then from there, they're gonna gain 3 life, put them back to 16, which will be out of range for Calibrated Blast. That being said, we can still go for the Sunscorched Desert play here. At the same time, they can also have a Fire and Ice here, nullifying our damage. And then from there, they can just go and do the Indomitable creativity play anyway, giving them an avenue to gain 3 more life down to 16. We're gonna go with a play where we are representing a Otawara. Alright, it's a Dwarven Mine. Even worse for us. And here's the Indomitable creativity. They're going for the Archon of Cruelty. Cascade Bluff goes to the yard. As expected, they're down to 17. Theoretically, we do have lethal here, but there's an open mana right there. So that could be a Lightning Bolt. End of turn, we're gonna Sokenzan. Draw a card for the turn. Go for attacks. We're going to Feign. Hopefully, they're just gonna take 1 damage here. They took 1 damage. Nice. Now we can guess our Calibrated Blast. The odds are in our favor here. We haven't revealed any 15 casting costs. So that means all of our 12, 15 casting costs are still in our library. Calibrated Blast, flashback. Uncounterable. Nice, we revealed the 15 damage via Emrakul Aeons of Torn. 15 damage. down to 1, and finally land drop Sunscorched Desert, winning us the game. Here's another test case for us. And looking at the hand, we don't have the Calibrated Blast, so we can mulligan this. This one, we do have a Calibrated Blast. However, we do have 215 casting cost in our hand. Good thing we mulligan. We can return one into the library. That would be Emrakul. Opponent goes first. That's a Colony Garden. That could only mean one thing. And Yawgmoth. We're going to play land. That's Hidden Volcano. Takenuma for turn number 2. This would probably be Wall of Roots. Passing the turn. We put in a Scorched Desert. This game is a bit hard for us because they don't have so much damage done to themselves as of yet. They play a Misty Rainforest, fetch, and end shocked. Interesting. Okay, they're down to 16. Now it's fully in range with our Calibrated Blast for 15. If we play the Sunscorched Desert right here, opponent puts a 1 mana here. Cast Yawgmoth, of course. Our turn. Put in a Sunscorched Desert, and the cool thing about Calibrated Blast is that when you cast Calibrated Blast, it leaves a trigger on the stack. You don't have to choose the target first. You can look at the stack first and then choose the target. At this point, we did reveal a Emrakul, dealing 15 damage, and of course, we're gonna go for the face. That's the game. Game number 2, post sideboard. We did not sideboard too much. This is a hand that we can theoretically keep because there is a Calibrated Blast, but there's 215 casting cost, so we're gonna ship it back. There's an Emrakul with no Calibrated Blasts. I think we can do better. This one, we already mulliganed down to 5 with no 15 casting cost because we're going to put back 2 cards into the library. And from the looks of this, we do have Hidden Volcano, which can tutor for either Calibrated Blast or Throes of Chaos. So we're going to keep. We're going to bottom a Shadows of Mortality and a Rugged Prairie. One's going to go first. Dried Arbor. We're going to put in our Sunken Citadel for white so that we can Eiganjo next turn, depending on what they do. Wall of Roots into Young Wolf. Okay, decent. Land drop, Field of Ruin, shoot the Dried Arbor, go for Island, pass the turn. Thoughtseize, nicely done. That's 2 damage to our opponent. Land drop, cast Strangleroot Guys, go for attack. Theoretically, our opponent just needs a Yawgmoth to complete the circle. And luckily, we drew a Calibrated Blast. From this point, they put in a Noble Hierarch, go to attacks, deal us damage. Or not. That means that they do have a Court of Calling in their hand so that they can search for Yawgmoth. In that case, just going to put in a Volcano, wait for our opponent to do their thing. One's going to Court of Calling right here for Yawgmoth as expected. And going to do the loop. We're going to wait until they hit a critical mass of damage so that our Calibrated Blast could potentially win. That's 15, okay. 14. With that trigger on the stack, we're going to go for Calibrated Blast. And then at this point, we do have an option. If we reveal a Calibrated Blast, we're going to hit the Young Wolf. Young Wolf dies. Or if we hit Throes of Chaos, we're not going to hit them. We're going to hit Yawgmoth, depending on what we reveal and at the same time what they do. Opponent's going to go through the loop. It looks like they're looking for a card right here. I don't think this is a well-advised plan. However, they might be thinking that we're going to hit 15 damage anyway. So they're just going to go for the win. Their out here is a Court of Calling, instant speed, so that they can search for the Zulaport Cutthroat. They're just looping in Young Wolf right here. At this point, if they go for 4 or 3, then our Calibrated Blast would definitely be lethal. Down to 6. Down to 5. They all drawn like 11, 12 cards already. And I believe this would be their last draw. Unfortunately, they didn't have it, so we're gonna blast them for 15. Unfortunate or unlucky for our opponent that they drew like 16 cards or 15 cards and didn't find the Court of Calling. But to be fair, they already casted 2 Court of Callings, so that means that they only have 2 more cards. Chances are a bit low. So, yep, on to the next game. Okay, for this test case, we are on the play. And looking at this hand, definitely this is a mulligan. We do have Emrakul and Autochthon Wurm in hand with no payoff. This hand we can keep. There is Throes of Chaos, which is technically a multiple copy of Calibrated Blast. We're gonna bottom a Gemstone Caverns because we're on the play. Start off with the Ramunap Ruin, concealing what we are. We started with a Watery Grave tap. Oof, interesting. Land drop for the turn. Let's go for Hidden Volcano. We're basically showing them what our deck is, but I feel like that is the most efficient mana route here. Flooded Strand, pass. Land drop Rugged Prairie so that we can use a Eiganjo. One is going to fetch here. Go for Snow-Covered Island and into Orcish Bowmasters hitting us. That's fine. They're going to hit us for 2 again. Down to 17. Put in a Steam Vents tapped. Cascade Bluff, and at this point, let's just run out our Throes on Chaos. Try to draw out any of the counter spells. Calibrated Blast. Ooh, lucky we got 15. Show them to the face. And also lucky they don't have a counter spell, which is odd. They're now down to 4. End of turn, they do have an Orcish Bowmaster right there. They're trying to race us. Preordain. Go to attacks. Take 4. Down to 12. They left 2 mana open. And at this point, we're just going to land drop our Sokenzan right here. We're going to conceal the Ramunap Ruin. So the idea here is that we can flashback Calibrated Blast at any turn. So we want to ensure that we do have maximized our mana here. We can do it at end of turn. We can also Sokenzan, we can Otawara, depending on how the turn played out. They're going to attack here. Take that damage. At this point, they are representing a Tishana's Binding. So let's go for Sokenzan. Go for attacks. Flame of Anur. Take 1 damage down to 3. In theory, we can also just go for Calibrated Blast here. But we want to be sure that we are gonna win. So we don't want to be bamboozled by any of the Force of Negation shenaniganry. They're down to 1. They're gonna attack here. Take 2 damage. Down to 6. Draw a card. We're gonna put in a Ramunap Ruin here, representing lethal. So I'm just gonna pass here. Again, same idea. We're gonna need to tie the Tishana's Binding here. Probably need to block and Eiganjo. Eiganjo first. Go to blocks. We're essentially tying their mana. They're gonna go for Preordain. And Spellbluff Canal. That means that we are home free. We can just go Ramunap Ruins and win the game. Right. Next game. We actually lost game 2 a while ago. And that's through a combination of disruption and counter spells, especially Tishana's Binding. They were all the play, so it's a bit difficult for us to win. That being said, this is game 3. We do have 2 Calibrated Blasts in hand, but with 2 Autochthon Wurm. Admittedly, this is a good hand, but I feel like we can do better. So we're going to mulligan. This is way better. We can put in the Shadow of Mortality into our library, maximizing the amount of 15 damage in our library here. Land drop Sunken Citadel. Go for a blue, because we have Otawara in hand. Opponent goes for Polluted Data. Here's my Field of Ruin. Pass the turn. They fetch. Go for Xander's Lounge. During the upkeep, blow out the Lounge. We got Lightning Bolted. Go for Plains, and then they preordain during their main phase. Steam Vents tapped. And this is an area where we can Calibrated Blast. So we should. Calibrated Blast. Shoot you for 15. Now you're down to 4. Pass the turn. Opponent now would be a bit hard-pressed for any of the Thoughtseize shenaniganry. That's a Mutabolt. During our turn, we're just going to put in a Volcano. Pass the turn. They are pressured to put in a pressure on board. This is a Tishana's Binding. And we're going to respond with a Calibrated Blast. And 15 damage for the win. Nice. Alright, for this test case study, we're going to mulligan. This is a better hand. Since we're on a play, we're going to bottom a Gemstone Caverns, 2 Calibrated Blast, and that's good. Start off with a Hidden Volcano. Pass the turn. Opponent is Marsh Flats, Fetch, Shock, and Thoughtseize immediately down to 15. Yikes. That's a Sunscorched Desert. Down to 14. Pass the turn. Opponent went with Silent Clearing. We're going to Sunscorch again. Down to 13. Pass the turn. We plan to do it during their upkeep to tie their mana. On the upkeep, Calibrated Blast, and oh! Mana Tithe. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. But okay, I think we can recover here. But it went with Thoughtseize. They're down to 10 here. And Eiganjo into play. Our turn, Sokenzan. Go in the offensive. 8 damage. Pass the turn. Marsh Fletch down to 7. And here they're gonna cast a Lion Sash, exiling one of our Calibrated Blasts. And unfortunate, we only drew a Demolition Field. We're gonna attack. They're gonna go for 4. Sunken Citadel for red. And pass the turn. So either way, this time, we're going to get the dub here, because they're gonna exile our Calibrated Blast. And then we're gonna attack next turn. Force them to block. Fortunately, that's a Orcish Bowmaster, reducing them down to 3. That means all our cards are lethal. Now, without showing them any more cards in my hand, I'm going to activate our Volcano. Discover, reveal a Calibrated Blast. Blast them for 4. Next game. Alright, we are on the draw. This is a hand that we cannot keep for sure. Gonna mulligan. And yeah, this is a hand that we can keep, although we don't have a Caverns. We're gonna bottom a Emrakul, put it with a Swamp. Early Thoughtseize. Taking our Calibrated Blasts, unfortunately. That's a Desert, pass the turn. Godless Shrine, tapped, pass the turn, okay. Ramunap Ruins, pass the turn. We will be mindful of their mana tithe here. We're just passing turns here, playing lands. Looks like opponent doesn't have a pressure on board. Turn 4, they're going to cast a Grief. To be honest, this is a bad call because that means that we are open for a Throes of Chaos next turn without fear of mana tithe. We're going to go for it. Throes of Chaos, discard a Prairie, or Cairns. Show a Calibrated Blast, deals 3 damage. We're going to go to the face immediately. Pass the turn. Opponent goes for Marsh Flats. Cast a Sholdred, pass the turn. And then at this point, we do have a land drop play. And since we drew a Calibrated Blast right here, I'm going to land drop right there. And then we know that we put 1 Calibrated Blast into the bottom of the library. And then all 3 Calibrated Blasts and Throes of Chaos in the graveyard and 1 in my hand. Therefore, there's only 1 damage total that we can show, and that's 15. That means we win. Nice. Alright, that's it. Now, if you enjoyed the gameplay, subscribe to your boy and give it a thumbs up. Let me know on the comment section down below what type of deck I should be playing in the next modern gameplay. That's it. See you in the next one.